Ahoy there! I've been on a bit of a GameCube hit lately, going back and reading old issues of Nintendo Power from the GameCube era between 2001 and 2005. And what I noticed in issues 151 and 152 was that there seemed to be so many taxi games. Crazy Taxi, the Simpsons Road Rage, and an advert for Smashing Drive. A war was brewing. When Smashing Drive came out in early 2002, the Taxi Wars began. This is the Taxi Wars of 2002, when these three taxi games were trying to out-crazy each other in the early years of the 6th console generation. I would have called this the Fair Wars, but that's the subtitle of a Crazy Taxi game. Why did I set it in 2002 instead of 2001? Well, if you weren't paying attention, all three of these games were on the market at the same time in 2002. So, which of these cab games won the day? The game that started this mess in the first place is none other than
Crazy Taxi!
This iconic Sega arcade game was ported to 6th gen consoles by Acclaim Studios Cheltenham. You heard that right. The same people who made Extreme G3 also made this port. First thing I need to get out of the way, the music. The console ports have the excellent licensed music from The Offspring and The Bad Religion. But because it's licensed, I can't use it for this video lest I get copyright stricken. Could be worse though, you could have played the PC port of this, which didn't have the original soundtrack. Oh, wait, you can't play that port anymore. Anyways, all this Crazy Taxi stuff came back to me the second I started the game. A lot of the ports of this game were based on the Dreamcast port. This includes the iOS port that I sank a bunch of time into in high school. I would have recommended that port since it was good overall and had the original music, but you can't play that port anymore either. Unlike future ports of the game, the 6th gen versions have most of the product placement like KFC, Levi's, Fila, Tower Records, and so on. Although unnecessary, it grounds the setting in real life, and the passengers occasionally tell the cabbie that's their destination. Since all home ports were based on the Dreamcast port, it includes the city from the arcade game, as well as the console original city. Both maps are based on the general setting of California, with San Francisco's hills and trolleys and the towering skyscrapers of Los Angeles. Okay, San Francisco has skyscrapers too. It'd be nice to know where exactly I'm going when I'm shepherding these lazy-ass pedestrians around, like having a mini-map or full map to reference. Sure, you get an arrow that points you to the destination, but going where the crow flies is a recipe for wrong turns. Thankfully, wrong turns are few and far between. It's hard to get lost in either city. The 4 cabbies from the arcade game are here: Axel, Gina, BD Joe, and Gus. BD Joe has always been my man.
Yeah, we can have some fun.
But I like the tail fins on Axel's cab and the rolling slab look of Gus's cab. And yes, of course, Gina's hot. Sadly, you don't get any of the new cabbies from Crazy Taxi 2, since that remained a Dreamcast exclusive. One thing that hit me, literally, when I came back to this game was janky collision. It's a Sega arcade game, alright. Realistic physics are overrated. Crashing into cars tosses you around like a shoe in a dryer. If you're Gus, you can shrug it off, but if you're not Gus, then your cab will come to a dead stop. Oh, and because this is an arcade game, you need every second you can get. You're always on the clock, so you have to drive your passengers to their destination fast. Going too slow will result in you running out of time or your passenger bailing out and leaving you fareless, whichever comes first.
Look at the time, you suck!
The faster you deliver your passenger and the further the destination, the higher your fare and tip will be. Getting good at Crazy Taxi requires you to learn all the crazy tricks the game has to offer. The most important one in my book is the Crazy Dash. Your cab accelerates slowly from a standstill, so letting off the gas, shifting into drive, and quickly hitting the gas will give you a jolt of speed off the line. However, this is tricky to hit since there's no input buffer, like a certain 2001 Nintendo fighting party game. The second most important trick is the Crazy Drift. Shift to reverse, then quickly back to drive while turning, and your cab will start veering in the direction you turned. Useful for all those tight corners. Doing these tricks consistently is not easy, even on a GameCube controller. While I like using the triggers for gas and brake, this is one of those driving games where you have to shift into reverse and then hit the gas to go back, instead of simply holding down the brake. Then again, you have to do this in a car in real life. Trying to learn all these crazy tricks on a controller will wreck your hands. Like a certain 2001 Nintendo you'll need to master all crazy tricks in the Crazy Box mode. This is a selection of 9 minigames that puts your driving skills to use, with 3 bonus games. If you're crazy enough to beat all of them, you'll unlock a bike for use in the main modes. By that, I mean a bike with pedals. If you watched that one concert/speedrun from GDQ in 2025, this might look familiar to you. It can also be accessed via cheat codes because cheat codes were still alive and kicking in the 2000s. Outside of the Crazy Box in the original city, there's not much else to do in Crazy Taxi. You really could have used a free roam mode to learn each map without any time pressure. The closest you can get is a 10-minute shift. Even then, your license will get revoked because you weren't doing anything. Crazy Taxi is not a bad game by any means, just a very bare bones and limited game. It's fun to play every now and then, but it's not a game you'll want to play all the time. Since Sega delisted every other version of this game, and because prices for the home ports are creeping up, your best bet to play this game is to track down an arcade machine. Or just emulate it like I did. As of 2026, Sega are making a new Crazy Taxi game, but it's supposedly of the always online open world variety. I'm not gonna hold my breath. Next is The Simpsons Road Rage, published by EA and Fox and developed by Radical Entertainment. Back in the 90s and 2000s, licensed games were synonymous with the term shovelware. This one's different. It's a straight-up clone of Crazy Taxi, and it's one that isn't terrible. The premise of the game is that Mr. Burns has replaced the city buses with nuclear-powered ones that are highly radioactive.
Please kill me.
That poor man. I hope someone does kill him.
So, Homer and friends become freelance cab drivers to bring back the old buses. When I say this is a clone of Crazy Taxi, I mean it. The gameplay loop is identical. Pick up passengers around Springfield and take them to their destination. The faster you get there, the more money you earn. Rinse and repeat until time runs out. The game adds in a few bonuses depending on the passenger. Some passengers want you to knock over objects before reaching their destination, while others want you to avoid hitting traffic. Completing these bonus objectives gives you even more money. With the money you earn in Road Rage mode, it can be used to unlock new districts and characters. There are 18 playable characters from the show, including characters like Homer, Bart, Lisa, Krusty, Chief Wiggum, Moe, and more. While I don't watch the show, I know who most of these characters are, and it seems like they're all voiced by their respective actors from the show. Homer sounds like Dan Castellaneta, for example.
Homer for hire, at your service.
Just get me out of here, dude.
Careful, don't sit on my nachos.
The game tries to implement elements of humor from the show, but nothing really clicked with me.
That's the spicy meatball.
You're faster than Joey Heatherton.
It wasn't easy to write funny dialogue for games based on adult cartoons, since the dialogue had to mesh together with some central idea that tied into the plot. South Park Rally on N64 and PS1 struggled with this as well. Each character has their own vehicle, ranging from run-of-the-mill SUVs to soapbox racers shaped like rockets, to tractors to cop cars.
Just think how fast we could go if my siren worked.
All rides have their own collision detection, which means Bart's soapbox racer is the worst ride at the start thanks to all those pointy edges. He gets hung up on the environment often. Speaking of collision, the physics in Road Rage are just as funky as Crazy Taxi, if not worse. Many parts of the game's maps are destructible. Streetlights get toppled like dominoes, and traffic gets tossed around like a shoe in a dryer. Wait, I already used that analogy. Oh! Your car is also somewhat bouncy, like it's a box attached to floating wheels. Each vehicle has its own handling quirks, but controlling each one is easy. While you can't remap the controls, you can choose between 2 control schemes on GameCube, using the A button for gas or using the right trigger for gas. Brakes are bound to the X button and can't be changed, and the B button is your E brake for drifting. However, this is one of those games that borrows from PlayStation control schemes, letting you use the C stick for gas and brake. It works. Adding to the chaos is Mr. Burns' nuclear bus plan. These radioactive rides randomly roam around town, bowling through traffic like Homer at a bowling alley. They cause pileups that can occasionally block your way, adding an element of danger that was not present in Crazy Taxi. As your shift rolls on, Mr. Burns himself will try to pin you in. Well, Mr. Burns and Smithers. When you hear the phrase,
"Get him, Smithers.
stay alert.
I haven't felt this much pep since the night I cold-cucked Calvin Coolidge."
When you're not fumbling through traffic or avoiding Mr. Burns' wrath, you're exploring one of 6 districts of Springfield at a time. These maps are smaller than the 2 cities of Crazy Taxi on their own, but again, there's 6 of these districts to drive through. It's hard to get lost in these districts because 1, the maps aren't too big or confusing, 2, you have a mini-map. Thank God! Having a mini-map makes navigation easier, but you can turn it off in the options if you're a masochist. One thing any gamer will appreciate is the Sunday Drive mode. You get to roam around each district freely, practice each route, and discover shortcuts, all without worrying about a timer. Pretty sure Radical Entertainment took a page out of the GTA 3 playbook with Sunday Drive, and I'm sure that also inspired the creation of Hit and Run a couple years later. Yep, same developer. Road Rage also has its own mission mode like Crazy Box from Crazy Taxi. Each scenario has you doing things like knocking over newspaper stands as Willie, or sneaking Homer back to work from a Springfield Isotopes game without getting caught by Mr. Burns. There are 10 missions in total. The music in the game uses the show's theme as a motif, and it works. However, it certainly ain't no Bad Religion and is nothing worth listening to outside of the game. I really don't have much else to say about the Simpsons Road Rage. It's a licensed game that doesn't totally suck, and it's a Crazy Taxi clone that outdoes its inspiration in many ways. If you like Crazy Taxi and The Simpsons, try this one out. They say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but imitation is also key to getting sued if it's just better. I'm sure that won't come back to bite EA, Fox, and Radical later. No, sir. Our last combatant is Smashing Drive, and I'll just let this intro rock if you don't mind. Ah, I love it. If only the rest of the game was as good as this attract mode. Smashing Drive was published by Namco Home Tech in 2002. It's entirely possible this game was due for a 2001 release, but a couple of buildings collapsed in New York City in September. As such, the game ended up releasing in early 2002 on both GameCube and Xbox. Surprisingly, this game never came out on PlayStation 2. Although, from the looks of it, you could mistake this for an N64 or Dreamcast game. The virtual Big Apple is full of muddy textures, chunky pedestrians, boxy cars, and more fog than San Francisco Rush. This is a port of a 2000 arcade game from Spanish company Galeco, not to be confused with Japanese developer Jalico. The home port was done by Point of View, best known for, that reboot of Narc, and maybe their assistance on The Saboteur. Anyway, this is not a good port compared to the arcade game. The passengers you pick up are completely absent from this version, which hurts the game's presentation since they added sorely needed personality. You just drive from point A to B, no questions asked. The exclusion makes no sense because not only does this game's file size take up less than 10% of a GameCube mini-disc, but you can see some of those passengers among the crowds of people walking around. Another unwelcome change was the announcer being recast. Some other guy phoned in the announcer role because I guess they could no longer say Bigfoot without risking the wrath of a monster truck. Lastly, 2 buildings are missing in the intro. This was out of necessity since something bad happened IRL in the months leading up to the port's release. I won't go too far into what happened, but I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with 9/11. Ignore the warts with this port-shopped version of the game. Smashing Drive is, well, it's a video game. You drive your cab carrying your non-existent passenger to the end of a destination around NYC, but you have to get to the end before another taxi gets there, and before time runs out. So technically this is a racing game since you have competition. However, you'll end up causing mayhem around New York by picking up a bunch of power-ups and taking risky route shortcuts that cut through different landmarks, sometimes quite literally. One thing I'll give credit for is being able to remap the controls to any button on the controller. Finally, I can have my right trigger brake and eat it too! The game doesn't use any more than 3 buttons, though. I wish it used more, however, because I'm tired of side-checking traffic when I'm turning. I would have gone down the F-Zero X route of mapping side attacks to the triggers. A and B for gas and brake respectively still worked in this generation of games. I also found it too easy to spin the cab, costing me valuable time. Aside from the constant side attacks and unwanted U-turns, this game handles just fine. It's an arcade game at heart, so you don't need to hold down the brake before turning. You will need to mash it when turning, since your taxi has the turning circle of Gus's cab from Crazy Taxi. You can also mash the horn to get most same-way cars to move out of the way, but the horn can actually break if you use it too much. However, this car reminds me of the one driven by Agent K in Men in Black when Agent J pushes the little red button. Just don't forget to wear your seatbelt. Along your route, your taxi can be augmented with different power-ups. You'll need every one you can get if you want any chance of reaching the end of the route in time. Going into this game, I predicted the sonic horn would be my favorite power-up to use, and I was right in that assessment. Easily my favorite part of this game. Too bad you can't drive much faster than 70 miles per hour or so during the game. This game feels slow, even though it's running at 60 frames per second, as your cab doesn't go higher than 61 miles per hour normally. Even when you pick up turbo, you don't go far over 70 miles per hour unless you're plummeting from a skyscraper. Wait, you can go up and down skyscrapers? Yeah, the sheer spectacle of Smashing Drive is worth some credit. You cause so much carnage in this game, it makes Crazy Taxi look like the TV show Taxi. Okay, I'm not that old. Watching these low-poly citizens run for cover while a monster truck taxi bowls over traffic before driving into a burning building puts a smile on your face. If only for a moment. Then reality sets in because you'll have finished the game before you've even started it. The game has 3 shifts, each acting as a difficulty level of sorts. Early Bird is the easiest, while Night Owl is the hardest. Once you clear all shifts, a 4th shift, Dusk and Wired, opens. That is a one-way trip to the Statue of Liberty where you need to take all risky routes and grab as many power-ups as you can to even reach the first checkpoint. This last stage is just trial and error, which isn't my favorite kind of gameplay loop. Geometry Dash comes to mind. In between shifts, if you've earned enough points, you get to try a bonus level with tons of power-ups scattered across the route. You don't have a lot of time to go through this bonus stage, though. Also, the skies seem to be controlled by Porygon, since it flashes red to green to blue and speeds up when you're low on time. While it's only normally effective against my eyes, it's super effective against those who are photosensitive. Once you've finished all routes, you've seen pretty much everything this game has to offer. There's a survival mode, which is exactly the same as the arcade mode, but now you can lose by damaging your vehicle beyond repair. Head-to-head is the standard split-screen multiplayer mode, but I conveniently don't have a second player to help me demonstrate it. Besides, you both lose if the timer runs out. No continues. I almost forgot to mention the music because it's terrible. It's the same as the music in the arcade game, which was never that good to begin with. It sounds like it was made by an in-house team from a small game developer in Spain. Oh, wait. That said, it's the cheesy kind of bad that you just can't hate. It's like the audio equivalent of a pug. Smashing Drive has a lot of good ideas and isn't a terrible game, but it's ugly as sin and is all bark and no bite. There's nothing else to do once you've unlocked all routes. No free roam, no minigames, nothing. This game has always been unimpressive. Hell, even the Game Boy Advance port was better than the main game. While Smashing Drive might be worth a playthrough every now and then, this is one drive you won't want to flag down. Now that the dust has settled and the rubber is cooled off, who won the Taxi Wars? I can tell you it wasn't Galeco nor Point of View, since Smashing Drive wasn't the most refined game. If anything, it lost points for its downgrades compared to the arcade game. But damn it, it has some saving grace thanks to its batshit insanity that outdoes Crazy Taxi. So who do I think won the Taxi Wars of 2002? Sega. It's not because of bias towards Sega games or my past experience with Crazy Taxi. The Simpsons Road Rage actually managed to be better in many ways than Sega's offering. It had better quality of life features, more unlockable content, and the star power of The Simpsons, if you like the show. It got bonus points from me for being a licensed game that didn't completely blow. Even though the maps were smaller, there were more of them, and having more than 4 playable drivers gave it a leg up. Hell, that's more characters than there are in Crazy Taxi 3 High Roller on the Xbox. So if Road Rage was the better game than Crazy Taxi, why do I still think Sega won? To me, it has to do with each game's lasting legacy. More people seem to remember Crazy Taxi more than a licensed clone or some other game from a team in Spain. A good bit of that has to do with the licensed punk soundtrack that the other two games lack. The music was the glue to Crazy Taxi's angsty turn of the millennium vibe. That and the fact that Sega sued EA, Fox, and Radical for patent infringement. The lawsuit is the only legacy Road Rage carries, since Sega knew it was a more complete game. While Road Rage had more to offer, the vibes of Crazy Taxi makes it the overall winner in my book. Before we close the book on this conflict, here's a table that you can use to help judge for yourself. Do you agree or disagree with my thoughts? Which of these taxi games brought you the most fortune? And did you ever become a cab or rideshare driver because of these games? Leave a comment. And maybe a tip. Don't be a cheapskate. Squiddy the Kid signing off. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that Alcajazz.